what's the worst that can happen? You're broke. I was broke when I started. Okay. What's the worst that can happen? You're broke. So what? You're already broke.
Yeah.
Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Everyone thinks you're a failure, folks. Who cares what other people think?
We talked about that already for sure.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just go. I mean, if someone has an idea and it's a stupid idea, it doesn't mean anything. If you're passionate about it and you take a chance, and guess what? You might be proven right that it is a great idea. Look at Crocs. You know Crocs?
Oh yeah, for sure. Own them.
If my buddy would have told me, hey dude, I got an idea to make rubber clogs, I would have said, dude, ain't nobody gonna buy those things. Like, don't do it. At the end of the day, dude, don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself. You have intuition.
Yeah.
It was instilled upon us. And I think if more people listened to their intuition, they'd be much better off in life.
In today's ultra-competitive business world, being a successful entrepreneur or business owner can be very challenging. Fortunately, contemporary times have blessed us with resources for tackling those challenges and getting us to success more quickly than we could have imagined. Welcome to The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs grow incredible companies. This podcast looks at the 5 keys to unlocking success as an entrepreneur. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason's mission is to use his gifts of teaching and leadership to help others get the results they want out of life. Join Jason every week and learn the keys to grow a truly successful business.
Hey there, I'm the real Jason Duncan. Welcome to the show. Glad you're here. We're going to be talking with a guy today that he doesn't realize how much he's influenced my brand and what I've done, and I think he's going to find a little bit about that today. We're going to be talking with the real Brad Lee. So we're going to introduce him in just a minute, but I want to talk about the show. First of all, I want to say thanks for watching on YouTube if you're watching. If you're listening to this on any of the podcast players, you have to thank, as I do every week when we do the show, I want to thank C-Suite Radio Network. Those guys help me get this syndicated on every podcast player. They're one of the largest podcast player production companies and syndications in the country, and I'm really grateful to be part of the C-Suite Radio Network. So thank you for listening. If you listen on Spotify or iTunes or Google Podcasts, no matter where you listen to this, please leave us a 5-star review, because obviously we want more people to hear this, and the more reviews we get, the better gets it in front of more people. And if you don't think we deserve a 5-star review, send me an email. Let's talk about what I can do to make it better. I try to make this better so that you can get to the root of all success and understand that. We're actually shooting this video today from a new location in the Standard at the Smith House. If for those of you that watch this frequently, you know that we shoot this. We've been shooting in the Matador room. We've shot some in Josh's office, a great setting here. But today we moved to the Rhino room, and so you got to go look at this on YouTube. If you haven't looked this on YouTube, go to therealjasonduncan.com/c/ I guess go to the youtube.com/c/therealjasonduncan. You can look at it on my YouTube channel there. You can see how cool this room is. And Brad's going to talk today a little bit about the fact that he loves rhinos. He's got a tattoo of rhino, and we're in the Rhino room. I didn't know any of that stuff about him, and he's like, this is cool that we're in the Rhino room, and he's really into rhinos, likes them. We'll talk a little bit about that too. Today's episode sponsor is Lightspeed VT, the company that Brad Lee started. Brad started this company to be the world's premier online technical training and staff training. And if you've got content you need to push out to people, Lightspeed VT is the thing you need to take a look at. So go to lightspeedvt, as in virtualtraining.com. That's lightspeedvt.com. Look it up. And when you contact them and you want a demo, I need you to tell them, hey, I heard about this on the Root of All Success, because you want to make sure that they take great care of you. And their people over there are fantastic. Brad's great. He's talked to me about his platform for my university, for Results University. And I think you need to look at that. If you've got any employees you need to train, if you've got content you need to push out, go check out lightspeedvt.com. So today's episode, one of the things I love about doing this show, probably more than anything else, is getting to meet really cool people. A lot of the entrepreneurs I have on this show, people haven't heard of, and that's fine. One of my first guests billed himself as the most famous entrepreneur you'd never heard of. So I get that there's a lot of people you haven't heard of, but Brad is probably somebody you've heard of. Brad's got a ton of followers on social media. His YouTube channel's got tons of subscribers. He pushes out a lot of content. His podcast, The Dropping Bombs, is fantastic. He talks with people about what they're doing. And what I like about Brad is that he pushes people to reconsider what their thought process is, and he's not ashamed or too shy to do that. He's pretty bold. I'll tell you what he said to me when we were talking getting ready for him to come on the show. I said, "Hey, Brad, I met you one time in Nashville a few years ago," and he goes, "Yeah, you should be more memorable." Well, he's right. Like I should be, and so the influence that he's had on me for my brand has been fantastic. But Brad started Lightspeed VT from scratch and built it into a multi-million-dollar platform. And besides being a CEO, he's been featured in Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur magazine, GCTV, the Huffington Post, Forbes. Like, this guy's done a ton, and he started, if I remember correctly, and we're going to talk about his story, but if I remember correctly, part of his story starts in the car business. And I'm going to ask him a little bit about that and sales and how that kind of led him to do this. But I'm so happy that all the way from Las Vegas, we got Brad Lee here in Nashville, Tennessee. And at first, I don't think it was his intention to come to Nashville. He's going to do this by Zoom. But I'm so happy that he made the decision to fly out to Nashville and to be here with me on the show, even though he had a little trouble parking, which, by the way, we need to probably figure that out. He's parked out on the street. We probably need to go put some quarters in there. I don't want his vehicle to get a ticket while he's in here in here filming. But please welcome with me the real Brad Lee. Brad, this is awesome. I'm so glad you're here, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. Crazy room, crazy place.
It is great. So I didn't know the rhino connection. So tell me about the rhino. What is it about rhinos that you tattoo your body with a rhino?
Well, I mean, have you ever tried to stop one?
No.
Would you?
Mm-mm.
Exactly. I just think that they're unstoppable. They've got thick skin. They focus on something and you got to kill it to stop it. So at the end of the day, I was at a sales seminar a long time ago, maybe 20 years old, and everyone was picking their animal. And everyone was saying, like, Black Panther and lion and all these, sleek, cool-ass animals. And I just said the rhino. I just got done reading Rhinoceros Success. And so I'm like, dude, I'm a rhino. And I've just stuck with it this whole time.
And so you got rhinos, you got tattoos, you got rhinos in your office. I'm going to have to, next time I watch one of your shows, I'm going to have to look to see if I can see the rhinos on your desk behind you. I probably just never noticed, but they're back there, aren't they?
They're everywhere. What's funny is I always tell people, tell me how many rhinos are in the room, and I'll give you 1,000 cash. And they'll, people see that on the show, and they'll come in and count without saying anything, ready for me to say it. Problem is they never hear my answer. And when someone gives me a number, I say there's 0 rhinos. There's only images. They're statues. They're not rhinos, bro.
We'll leave it to Brad to be technical on something like that. That's pretty cool. I like that. Well, I know you're a cigar and bourbon guy, and so part of the benefit of filming this at the Standard is that the Standard is one of the top 5 cigar bars in the country, and one of the whiskeys they serve, actually the house whiskey, is Guidance whiskey, which is actually started by a member here at the Standard, Jason Rigel, who was a former guest on the podcast. But if you're not watching this on YouTube, everybody needs to go watch, because we're sitting here smoking some Four Kicks cigars, which is a Nashville brand, Crowned Heads, which is a good cigar. So I'm happy to smoke a cigar with you, man. I'm glad you're here.
Likewise.
So what do you think about Nashville? You've been here for a few days. You've been here before, but what's your opinion of Nashville? I mean, coming from Vegas, it's a stark difference between Vegas and Nashville.
Yeah, I like it. I got to see what the humidity is like, so I figured I'd come down for 10 days and just chill, look for some property, hang out with a few folks, do this. But I like it. I like the vibe.
I grew up here. Actually lived in East Nashville as a kid, where I learned to ride a bike and played as a kid, and then ended up moving just in the county north of Nashville and grew up there. But Nashville's home, been here. But man, the changes, golly, it's just the cranes you see around the skyline, the buildings. I saw a picture of a skyline picture of Nashville over on, for those that are from Nashville know what I say when I say 265, which doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just 65, but it was 265. But there was a shot from the, I guess that would be the west side of 265 towards Nashville. I didn't even recognize it. It didn't even look like Nashville. It took me a split second to go, what is that? I saw a TikTok, not a TikTok, it wasn't, maybe it was a TikTok, maybe Instagram video of a party on a hotel roof, and I thought, well, that looks kind of cool. And then I looked at the background, and it was Nashville. Like, it's so amazing how fast this place is growing. But I'm glad you're here in Nashville. I'm glad you like it. This particular week that you're here, the humidity's pretty low because it's been cool the past couple of days. But still glad you're here. So tell me, am I right that your story started as an entrepreneur? Like you bridged from selling cars or training salespeople in the car business. Do I have my story right?
Yeah, yes, you do. When I started Lightspeed, I left the car business to do so. But I spent from 17 to 30 selling cars, selling art, RVs, pretty much anything I could sell, mastering the art of sales. And I think like any good salesperson, you tend to bounce around, which allows you to learn a lot, experience a lot. But my entrepreneurial journey started at about 30 after I stopped the car business.
And what did you do first as an entrepreneur?
Lightspeed.
That was it.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty good ride.
It's been a good ride. It's been 20 some years, Coincidentally, you listen to a lot of these older gurus and, they always say, you want to help other people. That's how you get rich. That's how you make it. You got to help other people. And I used to think, dude,
Zig
I
Ziglar.
need to get paid myself.
Yeah.
Right. So I was always focused on me. And then at 30 years old, I helped this kid that was in the back. Good dude, good family, not much money. You could see I'll say humility in his face and his family's face when they'd come to the dealership. And he was just such a cool dude. I said, let me teach you how to sell and close and make some money. So he went from making minimum wage to like 15 grand a month in a couple of months. And I just watched his whole family cheer up and his life get better. And I just got hooked on that. So I said, I'm going to start a business teaching people how to close, teaching people how to make money, because I just got hooked on that. So accidentally, I started helping other people without even realizing that's what I was doing. And coincidentally, that's when shit started opening up.
So I didn't know that. I mean, I guess I'd heard part of that story, but I didn't realize it came from a mission. Like it's a mission for you to really help people. Sure, you're making money from it, but you really seem to want, or at least originally that was your intent, to help people get to a better place. And that mission of wanting to do that, helping other people, led you to become a multimillionaire owning a company that's doing, I don't know what the revenue is, but you guys are absolutely killing it. I mean, that's a lot. There's a lot there that intersects with my story too, about starts from wanting to help people and teach people how to do things better, get the results they really want. Where do you think that comes from for you?
I think because I was never taught, nobody really, coached me, or I didn't have very good parenting. My dad was kind of a children should be seen and not heard type of parent. I was kind of left to my own devices. Very little parenting, if any. So I think maybe because I was never taught that I just want to teach. And not to mention, it's not that difficult. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people think it's difficult to succeed, and in reality, it's not. It's much more difficult being broke.
I think I've heard you say that before. It's like you got your choice. Like it's all going to hurt. It's all going to be hard.
Yeah.
Choose your hard, man. Like you want to be broke or you want to be successful.
At the end of the day, that's the bottom line. And quite frankly, anyone can do it. There is nobody on earth that cannot succeed.
And why do you think so many people fail?
Mindset. Subconscious limitations that have been placed on them for whatever reason.
So you didn't start your entrepreneurial journey till 30,
Yep.
which is fairly late. I mean, in the current culture of entrepreneurialism, it's in vogue now. I mean, there's lots of people that talk about wanting to be entrepreneurs. They're entrepreneurs. But at 30, you started and you still own that same business. That doesn't usually happen. So how do you think you've been able to sustain success for such a long period of time? Is it also mindset, or is there something else?
Well, I didn't start off successful, so I didn't sustain success. I built it over time. But I think the consistency and almost I was naive. I believed everything was going to happen in 90 days. So if I talked to you when I started my company, I would have said, bro, I'm going to be a millionaire in 90 days. And then 90 days later, you would have said, how's it going? And I would have said, dude, I'm almost there. Like, give me 90 more days. And I literally said 90 days for 10 years. And people would always make fun of me because every time they asked, I would say, dude, I'm 90 days away from crushing this thing. Like, I was always 90 days away. And I think because of that, it was almost like having blinders on, and it just kept me going. If someone would have told me, dude, this is going to be 15 years before you actually get anywhere, I probably wouldn't have continued. I would have said, oh, screw that. Being naive, honestly believing it was around the corner. It was this far away for the last 15 years, 90 days. I can last 90 days. I've been drunk longer than that. So it's like, I just kept going and kept going. And this was before the internet really came out. And I was selling basically online interactive training. And I started out with my own training. I was going to go be the trainer, be the Tony Robbins, the big name trainer. But I kept running into people that already use this person, and it was very difficult to sell them off of their hero. And in the car business, there was a guy named Joe Verdi, a guy named Grant Cardone, a guy named Tom Stuker, and these guys had a firm, grip on their audience. So when I went in there, I'm like, I'm better than all of them. Give me a chance. I tried closing them, and they're like, well, come back when you got a bigger name, come back some other day, yada, yada. So I felt this little, ceiling. So I just thought to myself, listen, I can try and compete with these guys, or I can collaborate with these guys. So I started stopping selling the car dealers, and I just started selling the closers, right? The people doing the training. And I said, look, you're running around training people live, and that doesn't work. See, live training, what people don't understand about training is this. And I discovered this when I switched and started the company, and then I developed Lightspeed to solve it. But in order to train people properly, and effectively, you need 4 key ingredients. Without these ingredients, you're not really training people. You're kind of exposing them to information, and that's different. I don't know about Nevada or Tennessee, but in Nevada, exposure can get you arrested. So you don't want to just expose people to information. So those 4 ingredients, which are good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. Those are the 4 things you have to have in your training in order to make it effective. These guys didn't have it either. See, when I started my company to train people, I went out there to train them live, just like everyone else was doing, just the traditional training methods. And this was in 2000. So the internet barely was out. I'm running around trying to get this effect that I realized I had the ability to do working at a company, training the sales team. And I could just grab someone out of Burger King, turn them into a salesperson, grab that kid from the back of the car lot, turn him into a salesperson, a badass closer, making good money, like one of the top people. I was taking kick-ass salespeople, making them kick-ass managers. So, I had the ability to train and develop people. It was crazy. And so that's why I quit my job, and I said, man, I'm going to go do this for a living and help people that way. So as soon as I quit, I couldn't get the results anymore. It was the craziest thing. I'm like, what the frick is going on? And so I just looked at what I used to do versus what I'm doing today, and I realized those 4 key ingredients. See, I was going in there and saying everything I used to say, but I wasn't saying it enough. I wasn't holding them accountable. I wasn't practicing with them and role-playing with them. And I realized that I can't really do that for other companies that are hiring me to come in for a day. So I developed the Lightspeed technology to deliver my training, which is the good content, with repetition, practice, and accountability, because it was tracking everything. And that kind of blew up to a certain level, and then I couldn't get past the big names. So that's when I said, screw it, I'll go sell the big names. And so I went and closed all the people that were teaching you to close. I like to say, I'm the guy that closes the guy that teaches you to close. So I went and closed all these people to use my technology. I said, I'll take my content and my name off, put your name on, and I'll even tell you where people want your services because I had already talked to them, and they said, yeah, well, if you had this guy, I'd do it. So I gave them a list of names and helped them close a few deals and just became partners with them. And that's really when it started blowing up.
So it took you 90 days repeatedly, over and over and over again. Was there a moment? This has been my experience, and a lot of people that have the similar entrepreneurial journey. They'll say there was a moment when you kind of woke up, like you'd been working and hustling so hard for so long that you woke up and you realized, well, wow, I'm a millionaire. Like I built something. Because you don't just become a millionaire like in a moment and you realize it. Did it take a while for you to realize, wow, this is actually working? I know you had to go through those 90 days, just 90 days, but you didn't know when it happened. You looked back and saw it. Is that right? Was that your story?
Yeah, I mean, it happens slowly, but I think personally, we're all millionaires. The question is, from what? Like we have millions of dollars or millions of excuses, but you can't have both.
Oh,
so you got to pick one.
See, if I had the bomb noise that you use on your, I would have
dropped it.
I would have dropped it right there. So your show's dropping bombs, and that's what you do. So, so when did you start dropping bombs? How long ago did you start recording that podcast?
Maybe like a couple years, maybe a year and a half.
Yeah.
I just had all these big wigs coming in and out of my facilities because I have beautiful offices in Las Vegas overlooking the city on this lake. And I built all these kick-ass studios to come film content, interactive content. So I had Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Tom Hopkins and all these people coming in and out to film their content. And I thought, man, see, my mission in life is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it or want it. Because I think people fail because they don't have the right information. Bottom line, nobody wants to fail.
Yeah.
They just don't know how to win. So I'm like, dude, if I want to live in a world that's more successful, then I need to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it. And so and I had the technology to do it. So that's really what I started my mission as. And I thought to myself, all these people coming in here and I'm just letting them walk in and walk out. Why don't I get a couple microphones and just have them sit down and start talking to them? And so that's what I did. I got a couple microphones, and then nobody was scheduled for like 2 months to come in there. And so I just grabbed one of my employees and we just started talking. And then I just grabbed someone else and we just started talking, and I just started uploading them. And people are like, oh, dude, that's funny. Oh, man, I learned so much. And so it started to get popular. And then the next thing you know, it was in the top, 100 in the country. And then, of course, everybody started calling saying, hey, how do I get on your podcast?
That's funny how that attraction.
Yeah, I get people that
happening.
offer money to be on it. Like people literally call me and say, how much to get on your podcast? One time I was just messing around. I said, 10 grand. They said, where do I send the money?
I won't ask you if you told them the routing number.
I gave them a routing number and they paid. And I'm like, damn, dude, I can sell episodes. So I don't sell episodes. I have, and I might. So if you're watching, you're listening, you really want to be on Dropping Bombs, hey, I'm open to offers. But you still have to be interesting, and I think you still have to have something to say. Like, in other words, I'm not going to sell out my audience and make them listen to some dipshit for an hour.
because he's got money.
Because they paid me.
Yeah.
But if you've got a story and you got 10 G's, it's actually went up since then. But
we can edit that out. 100. It's 100, right?
Yeah. Well, whatever. There is no price because you can't pay to be on it. But catch me at the right time, make me the right offer. Shit, I'll put you on it. I know the owner.
Well, this is where I want to take a moment to tell, because I mentioned this in the intro, about the influence that you had on me and my personal brand. So personal branding is a weird thing. I think that the world is just now kind of waking up to. I don't think there's a few big personal brand people out there. The Grant Cardone, probably the number one that people know. I mean, he's been on Undercover Billionaire. He's done that in ways that I think a lot of people aspire to do.
He's done a great job.
I think you're doing a great job at it as well. Tony Robbins, I think it was pre-personal branding as a concept, and therefore didn't really brand himself as much. But nevertheless,
what did he brand?
It's more of his business mastery, unleash the power, the concepts that he teaches in his amazing seminars. But from a personal brand standpoint, so when I got on Instagram, there's lots of Jason Duncans, right? There's tons of Jason Duncans. And Jason Duncan was already taken by someone, I don't even know who it is.
Jason Duncan, I bet.
It's somebody named Jason Duncan. There's a whole funny story I'm going to tell about that. But so when I was looking at what's my Instagram handle going to be, well, I had just recently met you. So it was within 6 months and started following you, and you were the real Brad Lee. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to put the real in front because it wasn't about you as much as it was, okay, that was a clever way to do it because I'm sure there's probably tons of Brad Lees right there. So I did that. And it wasn't even a personal brand play. It was just an Instagram handle. But then I started looking at buying jasonduncan.com, and some low-level musician in Texas had the thing. And I certainly am not saying he's low-level as in not good. Just nobody knows who he is, right? And so I reached out to him and I said, hey man, I want to buy your domain. No, not for sale. His domain pointed to an empty MySpace page. This is the truth. So but you're not using it, man. I'll give you $500. I'll give you $1,000. What do you want? 50 grand. I said, you're crazy, man. So I hung up, didn't think about it for a couple of years. Well, in the meantime, a personal branding coach reached out to me and said, hey, I want to do a free coaching session with you on your brand. I'm like, okay. So she talked to me and she was fantastic. She said, your brand, she kind of concluded your brand is the real Jason Duncan. That's what you need to be. Just make a logo. That needs to be your thing. Get the domain. That's your thing. Like, okay. So that actually, your Instagram handle turned me into, as a personal brand, the real Jason Duncan. But the story continues, and I think this is hilarious. So with my web developer, we were looking at, hey, go back out there now and see if jasonduncan.com happens to be available. And Matt, who's off camera here, is my apprentice. He was sitting there with me when we were looking at this, and jasonduncan.com said, when you go to it, said this domain is available. I thought, oh, great. So I'll buy. I don't need it, but I want it, right? So we go to buy it. Well, Google brokers, they were managing it. They reached out to me and said, okay, yeah, Mr. I tried not to tell them my name, but they figured out who I was. They said, yeah, the domain is $150,000. And I just laughed. I said, dude, who's going to pay that? Well, somebody famous will pay for it. I said, do you realize I'm the most famous Jason Duncan there is, and I'm nobody. Like, nobody's going to pay $150,000. My offer stands. I give him $1,000 if he wants it. Of course, it never went anywhere. But you had an influence on me with the personal brand just because of your Instagram handle. And the thing that you said about me being more memorable just in our first conversation on the phone, I took it to heart, man. So I'm trying to be more memorable where I go. I don't know how it's working, but hopefully you'll remember this rhino ring. Right?
No, I will, sure.
For sure.
Yeah, this is definitely memorable.
So one of the things that I do on the show, Brad, is this is the root of all success. And so I want to study how you became successful. And success is defined in so many different ways. So I want to ask you, what's your definition of success?
You know, that's a great question. I think everyone that tries to define it in general ends up talking about money and all this other things. But when people ask me what's the key to success, I always say that there's not really a key. It's more of a combination, and everybody has their own. Because, like, I have a friend, he thinks getting laid every night is successful. I don't. I think that's dangerous, personally. So is that successful? Well, it depends on who you ask. So I think the definition of success changes with the individual.
Sure.
And, my definition of success is the ability to give, unlimited without sacrificing myself. In other words, I like to sound like an angel, like, oh, I want to give, but I want enough to give without sacrificing myself. So I literally want so much, giving is nothing.
Are you successful with that definition?
Well, that would be a good question, and the answer would be no.
Really?
Yeah, no. And so I might change the definition now that you said that. Yeah, because I think I'm successful compared to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm successful compared to a lot of other people in certain areas, but I don't think I'm successful to where I want to be. So I would say no, I'm not successful yet.
Well, for the listeners, that would be a surprising comment for those that know you, right? They would know, those that know you, I think, probably would agree with me and look at you and say, okay, Dropping Bombs is a great show. Which, by the way, you mentioned that the show was funny. On Spotify, it's actually listed as a business and comedy. It's in 2 sections. I don't know if you did that on purpose,
No.
but that's what it's listed as. Because on my Spotify account, it says Dropping Bombs business, and then the second category is comedy, which I thought was hilarious for a lot of reasons. But I didn't know if you knew that or not.
I didn't.
But that's how you're listed
That's
on Spotify.
cool. Maybe they did it.
But I think that people who know you would look at you and go, wait a minute, Dropping Bombs, Lightspeed VT, public speaking engagements, and you show up. I met you at a retreat here. I guess it wasn't a retreat, it was just a get together here in Nashville. You came to, we had a get together with another coach here locally, and that's where I first became aware of you. And you've done, I think, tours of retreats with Coach Michael Burt. I think people would be surprised if you say that you don't think you're successful. But I think that I would tell you to think about it this way. Success, dictionary definition, is the achieving of the results you hoped for. Like, what did you want to accomplish? So when you started Lightspeed, I want to help people. I want to make them awesome. I want to make them close more. If they're a great salesperson, I want to make them an amazing salesperson. If they're a great, amazing salesperson, I want to make them amazing managers. You did that. You've done that for countless, I don't know how many people. I don't know if you keep up with metrics of how many people have gone through the system, but that was your goal. You achieved it. By dictionary definition of success.
No.
You're definitely successful.
No.
No? Why not?
What's the definition again?
Achieve the results you hope for.
Yeah, I haven't yet.
So what's the result that hasn't happened?
I want to change. I want to make the world a more successful place. I mean, technically, yes, I have. But again, I mean, who's the judge?
Right.
Yeah. If it just depends on who's judging.
Right.
You know, I don't believe I've accomplished everything I'm capable of accomplishing. Therefore, I don't believe I'm the success. Do I believe I'm successful? Well, sure. You know, I make good money. I'm in the top 1%. I inspire people to do things. I've changed people's lives on a regular basis according to them, which blows my mind sometimes. You know, I've helped a lot of people make a lot of money and live better lives, become better human beings, become better fathers, better husbands, better wives. You know, I've helped people become better people. So in that, yeah, I'm successful. However, my goal was to impact the world, which, you know, until I don't know if I'll ever consider myself successful by the definition of the dictionary, because I just know that I'm capable of so much more.
Yeah. I appreciate the humility in that statement. And I think that the listeners would appreciate that as well, because what's funny about this podcast, and what I've been blessed to be able to do, and recording some 30 episodes so far, and I know we're just at the beginning, but what I'm loving about this is I'm sitting across from people, every person I interview, I consider successful. On some level, maybe different definitions than you, but I consider successful on some level. And most of the guests have eclipsed me in what I consider successful with multiple times over, as have you. From an impact standpoint, from a monetary standpoint, those things, you've eclipsed me in that. But what I find interesting about it is just like what you did. Like you're a pretty out there, bold dude that says what's on your mind. Yet in this moment, you're like, I don't know if I consider myself successful, because it's coming from a true place of humility, and I can sense that in you, and I think that listeners can hear that in you. But that's the same story of everybody sat across the couch for me. They're all like, some people go, yes, I'm successful in a moment, and then they'll backpedal a little bit. Yeah, but there's more. There's more to success. Grows. Entrepreneurs never reach the end.
Well, here's something that'll blow your mind. I don't think I'm humble at all.
Well, if you did, you wouldn't be.
Well, look up the definition of humble.
All right, lay it on me.
Basically, it's a low opinion of oneself. And I do not have a low opinion of myself.
Yeah.
No, I do not think
Okay.
I'm of a low importance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm the most important person walking.
The honesty is amazing.
Well, only because, bro, you got to be a fan of yourself,
Yeah.
right? And there's so many people out there that think, in my mind, incorrectly. Like, for example, if I just sat here and said, man, I'm the coolest thing ever, everybody would be like, oh my God, he's so conceited. That guy's a freaking jerk. What do you want me to do? Hate myself? You want me to think of myself as unimportant and a loser and a failure and just like have no confidence whatsoever? Is that what you're looking for? Because that's what people will praise. Like if I came in here and I said, oh, I'm not very good at anything, people will be like, come on, man, you're good at a lot of things. Like they'll start patting you on the back. Like that's okay to be like that. But as soon as you actually believe in yourself, people don't like that.
Yeah.
Well, I believe you can't make everybody happy. That's a fact.
Sure.
So you have to pick who you're going to make happy. So if you make these people happy, then they're unhappy. And if you make them happy, then they're unhappy. And it's like this catch-22. So guess what? Just make yourself happy, which puts the importance on you. You're the most important person in your life. Without you, okay, the rest are without you, okay? So you have to be the most important person to yourself. That's why they say put the mask on first so you can help other people. I'm trying to fill up my own cup so I can fill up other people's cup. See, most people, when the cup overfloweth, they just go get more cups, right? Hey, man, this is working out great. Let me go get some more cups.
That's good.
I'm trying to get my cup to overflow so I can just sit there and fill up all the other cups. Now, I got a big cup, so it takes a minute. But once that sucker overflows, man, you definitely want to know who I am and be my friend, because good people would benefit from knowing me.
The thing that I joke with people a lot, and I say this a lot, is like, a lot of times you'll have an interaction where somebody will say, so you think you're better than me? And what do most people, they're like, no, that's not what I said. The only honest answer to that question is yes.
Well, better is a different word. I'm not saying I'm better than other people.
But still.
I'm more important.
Or more, okay, touche. So do you think you're more important than me? The only honest answer to that is always yes. Everybody thinks that, no matter, whoever's listening, the guy sitting in his car right now.
No, but that's the problem, Jason. They don't.
But it's true.
It should be true. But the problem is they don't think that. There are people that when I walk in a room, they will say like, oh, geez, I'm nothing compared to you. And it's like, dude, you can't think like that. No. You can't think like that. Then you come off as fanboy, right? Which again, I've had people roll up and I'm thinking, man, this dude's cool. Who is this dude, man? He's got style, he's got swag. Then he walks up, fanboys out, and it's like, he's putting himself down and, I'm way more important than this guy. And he's, bowing down. And like, again, people believe that's called humility. I think that's stupidity. Like you have to step into the room like you own it. Yeah. There's no room in this country that I don't belong. I believe. I'm not going to walk into a room full of movie stars, a room full of athletes, a room full of billionaires, and act like I don't belong there. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to walk around and be a dick and be arrogant and not listen and not appreciate who I'm around and admire the accomplishments of these people. But I'm also not going to think I don't belong here. I don't deserve to be in this room. What have I done? You have to have that confidence within yourself to where, because again, I didn't say I'm better than other people. There's a lot of people better than me at a lot of things, but there's nobody more important than me, to me. Yeah. You should be more important to you than me. Right. Would you agree?
100%.
But if you go around saying that to people, watch the glares that you get. Watch the people start saying, Jason, you should humble yourself. Jason, who do you think you are? And I always think to myself, what do they want me to think? That I'm of no importance? So if you look up the definition of humble, it says a low opinion of one's own importance. And I just don't agree with it.
Huh. That's an interesting perspective. I agree with you. I think that, but I think the biggest point that you made there that I would want the listeners to key in on is that you cannot be successful, no matter how you define it, without confidence. There's not a successful person on the planet who's not confident. Confidence can be displayed in many different ways. Some people see it as arrogance, being conceited, self-centered, but confidence is a key to success. I think that you have illustrated that in that story. Osho, I forget, I think that's how you say his name, O-S-H-O, said the greatest fear to conquer as man is the opinion that others have of you. And I'm butchered the quote. Like, and that when you conquer it, you become a lion, is what he said, not a sheep.
Or a rhino.
Or a rhino. So you would say, I become a rhino, because who's gonna stop the rhino? I love that.
Then I've won. If that's the facts, then I've won. Because, dude, I don't really care. I mean, I do care what people think. I don't care more about what you think than I think. In other words, if you thought I was a dick, I care less. If I thought I was a dick, I'd fix it. So at the end of the day, man, I like that Osho guy.
Yeah.
Who was that? I don't even know who that is.
I did a video on that this morning, and I can't. I think maybe he's a. I'm gonna. If I say anything, it'll be wrong. But he's like a sage guru. That was one of his famous quotes. Was that the greatest fear that a man would have to overcome is the opinion of other people. And I did a video on that this morning on my weekly wisdom videos, and I did one. I actually kind of coupled that with Proverb 29:25 that says, "The fear of a man is a snare." And so, like Proverbs, King Solomon was one of the wisest men ever to live, and he said, "The fear of other men is a snare." Like that, it's going to trap you. If you're scared of other people, scared of what people think. And that's what one of my coaches is working with me on right now. It's like, hey, Jason, when you do your content, you do your videos, you do your podcasts, you've got to get over what you think other people are going to think. And I'm still struggling with that. Honestly, it is a struggle for me. But getting around people like you helps lift me out of that. Hiring a coach helps lift me out of that. So I appreciate your encouragement in that area.
Well, just remember this. You can't make everyone happy. That's every time I start to feel a little bit like, and I start sliding on that, I just remember, you can't make everyone happy, bro. So you might as well make yourself happy.
So what's the next step for Brad Lee and Lightspeed VT? Are you going to run it till you die? Like what's the deal?
I'm gonna run it until I can get $1 billion for it.
All right. How close are you?
3 to 5 years.
90 days again and again?
Well, believe it or not, in 90 days, there's some major shit going on, where in 90 days I'll be much closer. But I give myself 3 to 5 years, so there's a little leeway there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 to 5 years. How old are you?
52.
52. You don't look 52. You look good for 52.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and looking good as you. Gives me hope. I'm 46, so we're not too far apart. But at 52, so you're thinking by 56-ish, 57, Brad Lee is a billionaire. Sold the company for $1 billion.
I may not be a billionaire because I got a partner in that company that I'm going to have to split up some money with, and you got to pay taxes. But I don't need to be worth $1 billion. I just need to sell a company for $1 billion.
Yeah. Who can say that? Not many people.
Well, not only that, I mean, it's just like millions nowadays are fairly common.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, someone's a millionaire, I'm like, cool. I think a billionaire is the new millionaire. Sure. But more importantly, I was always told growing up that I wouldn't amount to shit. I'd end up in jail, all these, things we all hear growing up. And, I think one of my motivation points, one of the things that drives me is I want to basically flip everybody off. I want to go back to all those people, if they're still alive, go back to all those people and be like, now what, bitch?
So you actually, I was listening to one of your podcasts on the drive down, and you were talking about that with that guest about the one of the great motivators in your life as an entrepreneur and of your guest on that particular show was other people's opinions about how you are not going to make it. So it's funny, the theme of the show kind of seems to be going back to the opinions of other people, what you think of them. But what these other people who said you weren't going to make it, negative opinion of you, actually prodded you to do great things. So their opinion didn't matter, even though you didn't like their opinion.
Well, the opinion didn't matter, but it was useful.
A motivator. That's another bomb. If we had the bomb noise, opinion didn't matter, but it's useful.
Yeah, like I use the hate and the doubt as fuel to keep pushing, to keep going.
All right,
to outdo myself.
Who's the biggest hater? You want to name them that you're going to go back and say, now what do you think?
I'd have to think because it's been so long. I don't get much hate anymore. Nowadays, I just get a lot of love actually, and that's another thing people got to worry about. Don't believe the hate and don't believe the hype.
Yeah. Don't
get too sure of yourself either. Like you always have to have that little tiny, almost like, space there's like a fine line. Because if you start to get too, hey, I'm the coolest dude walking, and next thing you know, you slide or you get, cracked somehow. But but there's a handful of people from my childhood. There's a lot of family members, a lot of friends, a lot of people that graduated. Like when I dropped out of school, everyone said I was going to be a loser and I wasn't going to go anywhere. Now some of those people are working for me. I always tell people, I dropped out of high school, but I have 2 PhDs, 4 MBAs, and 16 associate degrees, a couple of bachelors. They're like, how'd you do that? I'm like, I just hired them.
I knew that's where you're going to. I love
Like,
it.
you don't need a degree if you can hire one. Like, what do you need a degree for?
So I've got a funny story about that. I got a bachelor's degree in ministry. I spent the first 13 years of my career in ministry and sales, which is where I learned to sell. And
Ministry is sales sometimes.
It is. And then I went back and got a master's in education, taught school for a few years, and was an unemployed school teacher when I started what it turned out to be my first big company, multi-million-dollar company. But I started working on my PhD about 5 years ago because I kind of wanted, I just thought, I want to do that. And I got accepted to school, started working on my PhD, and actually learned some really cool stuff. And it's actually one of the things I learned in my PhD program is a central tenet of the things I coach people on today, margin theory. But when I was in the middle of that and I was taking a test on statistics, oh my gosh, it was rough. It was so bad. I failed it the first time.
Well, 72% of statistics are made up on the spot.
And I now know that, and I know how they make it up with Excel. But my wife, she came to me and she said, we've been married 26 years. She's my best friend. We've known each other since 15 to 16, met on a blind date. She's the best person in my life. She said, why are you doing this? And I gave her the thing I just told you. I just want to do it. I think it would be cool. Not that I care.
That's a good reason.
Like, I just want to do it. But she said, and this is the thing she said. And this is I was not coaching full time. I was actually still running my company full time as CEO. And she said, are you going to make any more money because of this? Like what is it? And I went, no, I won't. And I think that comment changed it. And I wasn't doing it for the money, but when she put it in those perspectives, like, why would you go through this? Like, what's the outcome of this PhD? And I thought, okay, I'm a pretty successful entrepreneur. I haven't achieved what I want to achieve yet. Is the PhD going to help me get there? And I just dropped out. I quit. I mean, I finished the semester, so I didn't quit in the middle. But I learned some cool stuff. But now I don't have any PhDs working for me, but I have a lot of master's degrees. Yeah, for sure. I got people that have the degrees and they do what I do. But the coolest thing that I got to do, and this is why I'm asking you the question, what's the next step for Lightspeed, is that part of my central message is exit without exiting, because that's what I was able to do. Like, I set up my company in a way that I could finally walk away, and I attend one meeting a month. And most of the time I don't even say anything. I just attend, and it's a team meeting. We have lunch and that whole thing. And I still get all the tax benefits. I still own the company. I still get paid. And I'm able to do what I truly want to do, which God created me to be a teacher and a coach and a motivator. And that's what I'm doing with the show and what I do with my coaching. So what is it that you want to do? Like, have you thought about this whole, could you exit Lightspeed to still maintain 100% of that income and the tax benefit and ride it into the sunset?
Yet. No, I need a few more processes.
Well, if you need a coach, I know a guy.
Well, I might need you. I'm not very good with systems and processes. I'm more of a gunslinger. I'll get shit done, but I don't know necessarily how I get shit done. When that's what's important when you're running a business, is not to be the one getting it done. Otherwise, you built yourself a job. Mm-hmm. If you want a business, you have to put in the systems and processes to where it can operate without you.
Yeah, a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in that, don't they? They don't build the exit when they build the business, and they end up in a dungeon that they get tortured in every day.
So where'd you go to school for ministry?
I went to Southern Christian University in Montgomery, Alabama. It's now called Amridge University.
So you ever hear my discussion on this topic?
Yeah, we actually, when you and I had that phone call a few weeks ago to prep for the show, you had just done a podcast with another guest, and you got to talking about that, and then you and I had a brief discussion about this. So yes, we did talk a little bit about it. What's on your mind?
Well, it's just, when you say God, you know that word is, number one, a title from a pagan word.
Mm-hmm.
And when you read Scripture, it says, "My children will know my name."
Mm-hmm.
And He wants us to use His name and sing praise to his name and call upon his name, but yet nobody uses it. And I don't understand why is that. Like if I were God and I said, hey, listen, use my name, tell people my name, call upon my name, sing praise to my name, would you call me Mister? Would you tell everybody Mister?
No.
Told you, Mister helped you?
Nope.
So Mister is a title, God is a title. Why wouldn't you use his name? Do you even know his name?
Yeah.
Because his children will know it.
That's right.
What's his name?
Well, Yahweh, Elohim,
That's right.
I am.
Not Elohim. That is not his name.
Okay.
He only has one name.
Well, he was called by many names.
I didn't say what he was called.
Yahweh.
What's his name?
Well, he said, I am. That's his name. He said, Moses said, who shall I say sent me? You say, I am sent you.
Yeah, but if you look at the scripture, the original scripture, he said, tell him Yahweh sent you.
Yeah, well, I agree. We were agreeing.
That was his name. They removed his name. You do some research, you'll freak out.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people think, oh, Brad, you're saying he doesn't exist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like, let's not complicate things. People like Elohim, that's not his name. Was he called that? Yes, he was. He's also called God. Doesn't make it his name.
Yeah.
I'm called Mr. Lee. That's not necessarily my name. That's a title.
Yeah.
My name is Brad, right? Now, if someone said Blad and they were trying to say Brad, that's mispronouncing my name, but you're still at least trying to use my name.
That's right.
But I think, there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, you're one of those guys. It doesn't matter what his name is. Well, then why would he say it's so important?
Yeah.
Why would he instruct us to use it? Why would he say my children will know it? And then when I ask people that claim to be, faith-based, a lot of them, they don't even know his name.
Yep.
So anyway,
So where does that come from? Like, were you raised in a Yahweh following family? Like,
No, not at all.
So where did that interest? Because you've mentioned that on one of your podcasts. You and I talked about it in our first talk. Now we're talking about it on my show. So where
the scripture that says my children will know my name.
Yeah, I get that, but like, why is it interesting to you? Where did that spark? Oh, this is an interesting point for me to talk about.
Because I like to believe I'm one of his children.
Yeah.
And when it says my children will know my name, I thought, shit, I
his
better figure it out because I don't know it. His name's not God.
That's right.
So,
that is what he is. If you put it.
So I thought, well, I better know it then.
Yeah.
It's just like if I was throwing a party and I said, hey, buddy, show up, just tell them you know me, and they'll let you in. So you show up and you say, yeah, I'm here for the party. And they're like, who invited you? And you say, Barney. They're going to say, who? Barney. Well, that's not my name. So why don't you just use my name? Well, what if someone convinced you between the time I told you my name and 2,000 years later that my name was something else? Are you in trouble? No, not necessarily. But at the end of the day, my real friends, they know my name. My real friends will know my name.
That's right.
No one that really knows me will tell you my name's Barney. So I just ask people, if you believe in any of it, you have to believe in all of it, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, just go look at the scripture that says my children will know my name. And then ask yourself, do you know his name? Because if you don't know his name, well then, and you believe, well then you must not be one of his children.
Interesting.
Because if you were, according to him, you would know it.
So what do most people say to that?
They say God, or they say Jesus, which is funny because that's the son, and Jesus wasn't his name either.
Yeah.
That's not his name.
Yeah.
His name was Yeshua. That's what his name was.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, when you translate, no, it's not translation. Otherwise, you wouldn't see Joshua in the Bible, because Yeshua translates to Joshua.
Right.
And there is Joshua in the Bible, and there's Jesus. So how did both have the exact same name? One turn out Jesus, one turn out Joshua.
Yeah.
How did that happen? And it also says in the scripture that Satan will deceive the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're part of that, right? So perhaps maybe Satan got us to say a name that wasn't his. I don't know.
What is it?
And by the way, just for the record, I don't know. And I don't want anybody, I just want you to seek, because again, if you read scripture, it says seek and ye shall find. Most people they're not seeking. They're just saying, okay. They listen to the priest, they listen to the pastor, they listen to their parents, they listen to somebody else, And you hear the story and you're like, oh, okay. And that's not seeking, that's listening, that's agreeing, that's following. Seek, man. Seek. Look. You'll find them if you look.
Yep.
But if you don't look and someone just tells you his name's God, so you just keep saying praise God, he doesn't say that. He says praise his name. Call upon his name. And what's crazy is, imagine if you're praying to God using the name God, and that's not even the right name. That'd be like me saying, hey, if you come to Vegas, I'll give you anything you need, just call this number, and you write it down wrong, and you show up, and you call the number, and I don't answer. What would you think about me? If you really believed that was the right number, and you called it, and you were in need of help, and I didn't come, you'd question me, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what the old dirty dog Satan's doing.
He is the great deceiver.
That's right.
He's the father of lies, the prince of the world. He's in control right now. That's what's going on in this world. It is nuts. We've just experienced the nuttiest nuttiness we've ever I can't imagine there's another nutty place, a nutty time in history than what we've experienced, and the lies that have been spewed. It's
100 years
crazy.
from now, they'll be talking about this, period.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's crazy.
Did it affect you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to go through it without being affected, speaking of the pandemic, but from a business perspective, just from truly business, yeah, it affected my main company significantly.
In a bad way?
Yeah, fear, man, fear. But
See, it affected mine in a good way.
yeah, people could train at home.
Nobody's ever got COVID from Lightspeed.
That's right. Yeah, well, you and Zoom and everybody else that was in that space where you could do things online. I mean, Zoom's the new thing. Like I do all of my shows live like this. We don't publish it live, but we record live face to face. And I've got people that need to do it by Zoom, and that's fine. And I've done several by Zoom.
Only if they're famous is my rule.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, as famous as you are, being right here in front of me, because Zoom, it's great, but dude, if you could get in the energy you and I have right now would never be accomplished looking across each other on a screen. Like, this is fantastic. But in the pandemic, you were well positioned to accelerate like never before.
Coincidence?
Do you want to share with listeners a little bit about the revenue of Lightspeed and how it was affected? Like, is that part of the things? If it's not public, you don't have to share. But is there anything about that?
Well, revenue increased because everybody obviously still had to train and communicate with people.
Yeah.
They just couldn't do it in person. A lot of these workers worked from home. Well, how do you lead people from home? Someone had to learn that. Mm-hmm. How do you learn if you can't get together? And Zoom is not learning.
No.
Okay, Zoom is exposing. Like, I can get a bunch of people on a Zoom and talk for hours, but I don't know who's listening. I can't test everybody. I can't role play with them. So Zoom is not a learning platform. It's a communication platform.
Exactly. It's
so
a tool. Yeah.
to learn, you have to have good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. And fortunately, that's what the technology was designed for. And when the pandemic cracked, people still needed to learn. So they started, looking for a resource, and, a lot of times found us.
Yeah. Lightspeedvt.com. I want to remind everybody to go check that out because it's an amazing platform. And you started it primarily to do training, like you're talking about training salespeople through repetition and quizzes and continuing to keep them in front of the content.
Right.
But when did you, or was it originally like this, or did it morph into, I'm also going to let people with content who want to just push content out to public where they charge people to take, like I've got an online university. So when did that become part of Lightspeed's platform?
That's the time when I kind of decided to go close the experts instead of the businesses. Because I was selling the businesses my content. I wasn't selling a platform. I was selling training, my content. And, I hit a little bit of a ceiling. And so I said, well, let me go close the people that can close these businesses. So that's when I said, I'll take my name off, I'll put your content in there, and you go sell it, and I'll just take a little piece for my niece, just a little tad for Brad, just a little sliver to deliver. And so that's really when it started, blowing up, because, I was collaborating as opposed to competing. I think when you compete, you're just trying to take from others.
Yeah.
You know, if there's so much business in the world and I'm going to compete with you, I'm going to go take your business. But if I collaborate with you and we create new and introduce new things and you have an abundant mindset, well, then I believe the universe rewards you in ways you can't describe. I think when you introduce new and increase, that's when you get more and increase.
You talked early in our discussion here about you thought you had a really interesting point. You said that there aren't keys to success necessarily. It's more of a combination. And I love that analogy. That notwithstanding, one of the things that I talk about on this show are the 5 keys of success, and they could be seen as a combination. So I don't want to say that your combination thing was not right, because I like it. But the 5 keys that I've seen consistently for every entrepreneur who sat across from me on this show, and not on the show, like just having a cigar and a bourbon somewhere else. There's 5 things that have always showed up every single time without fail. And the first that always shows up is passion. And passion, I think a lot of people would immediately go, yeah, passion is a key. You got to have passion or you're not going to succeed. But there's 2 sides to passion. There's the side of the emotional passion where I enjoy it. Like, you enjoy training people. You enjoy watching people succeed. And I can see that and sense that passion. You wouldn't have succeeded without it. But it's the other side of passion I think is really the bigger key. Passion actually means willing to suffer. So the passion of Christ that we talk about in the scripture about when Jesus or Yeshua went to the cross that last week, the Passion of the Christ, the movie that Mel Gibson did, we call it that, not because he was excited to do it, but because he was willing to endure. There was a cause on the backside of it. And I found that every entrepreneur who's successful had that passion. They were willing to endure. And I think about your story, just 90 more days. Just 90 more days, just 90 more days. Is that, do you agree with that as part of the key to success for you and anybody else for that matter?
Yeah, the way you describe it, sure.
Yeah.
Because you have to have consistency. You need to continue when most people quit. Some people have started a business and after a year and a half it wasn't going very well, so they quit. Well, they don't realize in another year and a half, if they just would have endured, they probably could have then made it. And there's so many stories like that. Success leaves clues. Like action causes like result. It's not rocket science. People make it way more difficult than it is.
Yeah.
If you see somebody that you admire and you want to get what they have, do what they did. And when you ask them, well, what did you do? Well, I spent 20 years building this company. Well, then you need to spend 20 years. Now, you might be able to accelerate that by getting good counsel and learning from their mistakes. What would you do differently, and take those routes so you can get there quicker. But to think, there's some mystery and everybody's chosen to be successful isn't, I don't agree.
Yeah.
Now, like, for example, being better looking than other people, that gives you an advantage. Doesn't mean an ugly fella can't succeed. We know a lot of them that do. Being in shape physically is an advantage. Doesn't mean a fat guy can't be successful. We know a lot of them that are. So when you realize, success is not, happenstance. There are certain things that apply. In my opinion, coincidentally, there's 5 things you got to do. Number 1, you got to take a chance. A lot of people will not take a chance for some reason or another.
Yeah.
Other people's opinion, the fear of being judged, the fear of failure. But you have to take a chance or you're going to work for someone who did, period. Number 2, you got to solve problems. You got to be a good problem solver. And how do you get good at anything?
You got to do it.
Practice. So what do most people do when they face problems?
They quit.
They hide from them. They run from them. They avoid them. Why are you avoiding problems when you need to get good at solving them? You should look for problems, face your problems. You have to be able to solve problems because they're coming no matter what. So you want to get really good at solving them. After you get good at solving problems, the easier life becomes. And people start to say, well, that's because, you know, this guy, no. You didn't get, it didn't get easier. You just got better. See the difference?
Yep.
And then, you know, third, if you take a chance and you solve problems, the third thing I think that matters is you have to like literally be able to make adjustments. Like listen to what's going on, pay attention to the data. You know, open your eyes and ears and listen to what's going on. Take that feedback and be willing to make adjustments. I've made adjustments along the way. I started out a training company, right? Then I'm a technology company.
Yeah.
So 20 years later, now I'm making millions of dollars. Well, I didn't start out doing that. I adjusted. So you have to be able to make adjustments. Most people think you have to lock onto something and it's your way or no way, and it's just not true. You have to make adjustments, and you have to be okay with, you know, taking a left when you thought you were going right, and just, you know, make adjustments. Then 4, you have to seek knowledge on a regular basis. You have to seek information every single day. If you want to change what you're getting, you have to change what you're doing. And in order to change what you're doing, you have to change your beliefs, because the reason you do what you do is you believe what you believe for whatever reason. So to change what you're doing, you have to change what you believe, and most people don't know how to change their beliefs. You know how you change your beliefs? New information. Keyword being new. If you got no new information from now on, you would never change your belief system. You change your beliefs by new information. So you have to seek new information. Keep training, keep learning, keep seeking new information on a regular basis, so you can keep changing your beliefs, so you can keep changing your actions, and then you'll keep changing your results. And then the last one is to outdo the day before. You know, most people want to compare themselves rather than prepare themselves. It's like yesterday is your only competition, right? What'd you do yesterday? That's what you should be working against, not what I'm doing. You don't know my story. You don't know what I did and who helped me and all the connections I had, and you don't know any of that. So too many people are looking at these other people, trying to compare themselves, when in reality, none of that matters. What matters is, did you outdo yesterday? Are you outperforming yourself? Because if you just outperform yourself, that's what matters. And I think you put those 5 things together, you're almost guaranteed success.
So somebody listening right now that's thinking, man, I got this idea. I really, I think I could change the world, or I could be a millionaire, or I could make a lot, whatever they want. Like, but they haven't executed. They haven't stepped out yet.
Step 1.
Step 1. What do you say? What's your advice as a super successful entrepreneur many times over? What would you tell that guy sitting in his car right now, or that lady walking her dog, or the person at the gym working out right now, listening to this podcast? What's Brad Lee, the real Brad Lee, what would he say? This is what you got to do to get started. This is your advice. What do you say?
Take a chance. That's step 1. You have to take a chance. If you don't take a chance, nothing's ever going to happen. So, I mean, just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Quit worrying about failure. Failure, believe it or not, is actually a good thing. You know, you've heard Michael Jordan say he's failed more times than like he's failed more times at basketball than I have.
Yeah, but he's tried more.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But he wasn't afraid. What, you know, at the end of the day, you're worried about what someone will think. You're worried about, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't? What if you stay the same? See, that's what I thought, is like, I wasn't worried about if it doesn't work. Big deal. Like, I can go back to run car dealerships. I can always sell something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm never going to be broke because I can sell. The biggest attribute to my success is the ability to sell, close, and persuade people. I can close people. And with that skill, nothing's scary. You could drop me off in Nashville, Paducah, Kentucky. I don't care where you drop me. Like the whole Undercover Billionaire. Dude, that is not amazing to me. You know, especially when Grant Cardone did it. Like, dude, I guarantee you drop me off in any town, within 90 days, I'll have $1 million company.
All right, Glenn Stearns, you heard him, man. Put him on the next episode.
I had Glenn Stearns at my success event. I know Glenn. You know, I don't want to be on the show. I don't have time for the show. But it's not necessarily impressive to me. You know what would be impressive to me? Take somebody, give them $100 bill, and give them 30 days to turn it into $1 million. But to start $1 million business, that's not that difficult. Think about it. You just have to be able to sell.
I think the coolest part of that first episode or the first season was when Glenn sold those tires.
He sold.
That was amazing. That was it. That was kind of the key. What he got? He got like $1,300 from tires he found like out in the junk yard somewhere. Like he sold it and he took the chance. Like I think your advice.
That also could be scripted though.
Could be.
I mean, you never know.
Never know.
Like what a coincidence.
But it was a cool story.
Looking for tires. Like who would have thought of tires?
Well, what he did was he went on Craigslist for people wanting to buy stuff, and people wanted these big tractor tires. He's like, okay, there's a problem to solve. That's one of your 5 things, right? Find the problem to solve. He found a problem to solve, went out and drove around, found the tires, like
Did the work,
took the chance.
He didn't whine. Complain. Well, what if there are no tires? Well, what if nobody wants them once I find them? That's what people are doing all day long. You know, I've got a great idea. Why aren't you doing anything with it? Well, and they talk themselves right out of it. I've had multi-million-dollar ideas that I did nothing with, and now I see them. This thing on the back of my phone is called a love handle. Mm-hmm. When I first got my iPhone a long time ago, it kept slipping out of my hand. It slipped out of everybody's hand. I said, dude, I need to make something that your fingers slide in to where that doesn't happen. You just stick it on the back of your phone. And everyone's like, you know, oh yeah, I'd get one of those. But I never did anything with it. Now this guy's making millions of dollars. His name's Mike Watts.
Isn't that
execution is what matters?
There it is. And I get people calling me because people know me as a coach. I coach entrepreneurs on how to build, scale, and enjoy their businesses with the idea of exiting without exiting. And I get people calling me all the time. Jason, I got this idea. What do you think about this? And I remember one of the most recent calls I got, the guy called and it was a cool idea, like what you just talked about. I'm like, okay, are you going to do this? Is it executable? His idea was a lot more complicated than a handle on the back of a phone. It was a technology play. But I said, look, dude, I could go find $1 million idea from a homeless guy downtown. Ideas are worthless. What can you execute? And for that guy, my advice was like, look, just go print T-shirts, do something. If you want to start, just do it. Find something that executes, because execution is worth more than the idea.
Well, that's what I'd tell that lady that you were describing. Mm-hmm. Do it.
Got to do it.
What's the worst? I always ask myself, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah.
And when people say burn your ships, see, I don't agree with that one. I do not agree.
Really?
Hell no. What are you, stupid?
Well, tell me your perspective. I'm interested.
Well, I mean, like when I started my company, I thought, well, I can always come back to the car business. I can always go back and sell something. So that's my ship. Mm-hmm. I didn't go around and ruin every relationship I had so there was no choice. Like if I had no choice, I probably wouldn't have jumped. I would have said, hell no, dude, I'm not leaving myself no options. That's ridiculous. Now, if that's what you need, then I suggest you do.
Yeah.
But dude, I highly, highly advise, do not burn your boats. Make them nice and comfortable, and remember that they're there. So that gives you the comfort to take the chance, because you have to take the chance. Now, if there's no other way, you'll take a chance because you got a nice, comfortable way off the island or whatever the story is. The story with burning your ships were they came from somewhere. I forget what the story is.
Portugal. They came over to South America.
Yeah, and so we burnt the ships so they'd start working, because they were like, oh, well, why do this? We're going home. So we burnt the ships and said, dude, you're not going home. Now you better start building.
Yep.
So that was the only option, because he couldn't get the people to do the work unless he burnt the ships. But now it's some big analogy and everyone says, burn your ships. I wouldn't burn your ship, bro.
When you first said that, I disagree with you, but I think now, as you explain it, yeah, that makes sense. Although I would say that our ability to adapt will always outperform our ability to plan. So if you know that you can adapt and understand that law of adaptation, like whether your ships are there or not, you're going to make it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be nice to know that, like, if shit don't go well, you always got that?
Well, that's true. But you had the skill. It wasn't necessarily a thing or a place to go back to. It was a skill. You relied on a skill. So your ship was the skill. It's like you couldn't just turn off, well, I don't want to know how to sell anymore, so I'm going to download that out of my brain.
Yeah, but I could have called every place in the world and burnt that ship.
Well, that's true. And that would be stupid.
Foolish.
Well, listen, anything else you want to share about the real Brad Lee story? Because this has been a fascinating conversation. Is there any final nuggets of wisdom that you would give listeners who are listening as entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that want to do something amazing? You said take a chance. Is there anything else that you would want to tell people, like, pay attention to this? I love your 5 things. I think that's going to be, my editors need to pull that out and make that on some micro content. That was great stuff. So what else would you say?
I would say that you just need to keep asking yourself, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Because nothing's going to happen, folks. Like 97% of the things we worry about never happen. You know, what's the worst that can happen? You're broke. I was broke when I started, okay? What's the worst that can happen? You're broke, so what? You're already broke.
Yeah.
Like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Everyone thinks you're a failure. Folks, who cares what other people think?
Well, you talked about that already for sure.
Yeah, it's like, dude, just go. I mean, if someone has an idea and it's a stupid idea, it doesn't mean anything. If you're passionate about it and you take a chance, and guess what? You might be proven right that it is a great idea. Look at Crocs. You know Crocs?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Own them.
If my buddy would have told me, hey, dude, I got an idea to make rubber clogs, I would have said, dude, ain't nobody going to buy those things. Like, don't do it. A pool noodle. You know those pool noodles?
Got them in my pool.
I would have told somebody, dude, that is the dumbest idea ever. And they would have listened to me. There'd be no Crocs, no pool noodles, and 2 less, multimillionaires, if not billionaires. At the end of the day, dude, don't listen to other people. Listen to yourself. You have intuition.
Yeah.
It was instilled upon us. And I think if more people listen to their intuition, they'd be much better off in life. Quit worrying. Whoever Osho is, go study Osho.
Yeah.
Is that a person?
Yeah, it's a person. OSHO.
I'm gonna start looking into Osho. That's probably because you got a PhD.
I don't have the PhD.
Oh, that's another thing I'd really advise. If I could do it all over again, what I would do is I would read every single day. I would freaking invest my money more wisely. That's the only 2 things I would do differently.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I made a lot of
how
mistakes.
much do you read now?
Every day.
Okay, but when did you start that habit?
About 48.
Okay, so not long.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't need to do it to succeed. My bullheadedness and my ability to sell, close, and persuade made sure that I succeeded. But I could have succeeded much faster, and I would have a lot more money had I just read more and sought information. I never used to do it. I had to learn everything the hard way. My book coming out is called The Hard Way. Lessons I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I'm putting down all of these lessons and the stories of how I learned them in a book that I guarantee if a 20-year-old read that book, they're going to have a much better time in life. Why? Well, because they're going to learn them one way or the other. These aren't lessons that you're not going to learn.
Yeah.
Like if a 60-year-old picked up the book, they would agree with all of these lessons because more than likely they already got their ass handed to them and they've learned them.
Yeah.
Because these are almost universal truths. But younger generation, they don't know a lot of these things. So I figured, I'll just give a book to people that where if they really want to know, what's what, read that book. You can pre-order it, by the way. Go to bradlee.com.
There it is, Brad Lee, L-E-A.
That's right.
L-E-A, not L-E-E.
Yeah, people always say, is that Leah? I say, I don't know. Do you drink Tia?
Well, I think that's, you mentioned the whole, what's the worst thing that could happen to you? It came to my mind a minute ago. It was Tim Ferriss in his book, The 4-Hour Workweek. That was one of the things he talked about is like, go through and say, what is the absolute worst case scenario if I did this? And the worst case, in most people's opinion, would be death. Like, okay, that is the worst case. But short of that,
yeah, but I would advise don't do it if there's death involved.
Yeah, but other than that, man, go do it.
I'll go broke. So what? Why are you so worried about being broke?
Yeah.
There's other ideas. You can try something else. You're not dead.
Yeah. There's actually a vendor of ours that we use for my e-commerce company who was a multimillionaire, very successful dude, and the Great Recession took him out, like broke, down to, I think, a truck and his wife. That's it. Like
now he's back.
And he's back within 5 years.
Everybody is.
Back. So don't worry about being broke. If you were going to be successful, you're going to be successful.
And if you really want to be truly successful, like wealthy, you have to stay broke anyway. Like when I first started getting money, I started to save it. Like I didn't want to feel being broke again.
Yeah.
So I started to hold on to my money. And then I stunted my growth. And growth literally slowed down. And I thought to myself, what the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Well, when I was building my company, dude, I'd get money, spend money, get money, use money. Like I had to live on the money. I had to build with the money. I couldn't hold on to the money. I had to use the money. And then when I finally got some money, I started holding on to it, and I didn't want to risk it, and I didn't want to use it, and I literally stunted my own growth. And then I thought to myself, dude, this is foolish holding on to this money. So when you really start making real money, and let's say you've got 10 million in the bank. If you've got 10 million in the bank, you're stunting your own growth. Why? Because that 10 million could be used to make you more. And it just keeps going and going to where I always say, if you really want to get wealthy, stay broke. Get rid of all your capital. Get rid of all your money. Money's worthless unless you use it. Now, when I say all of it, no, I do not mean every dime of it. Yes, you can have some buffer, you can have some savings, but at the end of the day, most people don't do that. They start out a company, they build it up to where they got a little bit of comfort, they start to take that money and live better, and they stunt their own growth. They don't have the same amount to advertise with. They're not risky like they used to be. They're more conservative, and literally they can't figure out how to scale their business. I get people calling me all the time. How do I scale my business? I say you scale your business two ways, people and technology. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. How much money you got in the bank? You know, we got about $250,000. Okay, well, you know, take 100,000 and put it in. Oh, no. I'm like, what's the problem? Oh, dude, I got to have a buffer. So you got $250,000 and you don't want to use it? Like, that's foolish.
Well, it sounds like they need to burn a few ships, maybe not all of them, right?
Just use the money, man.
Yeah,
It's a
use the
tool.
money,
Money's a tool. That's all it is. Money is a tool to get more of it.
One of my advisors asked me this question a long time ago when I first and started engaging with him. He said, if everything you knew about money was wrong, when would you want to know? And I thought, man, that's a great question. Because to your point, you said if you could do it all over again, you'd read every day and you'd invest your money more wisely. And well, how do you learn to invest it wisely? By reading, by getting around indirect mentors like you. Read your books, go, coaching, hire coaches. Like I have 3 coaches that I pay lots of money to help me marketing and advice and, mentorship. I think people need to learn. You can accelerate success. You can't escape pain. As an entrepreneur, you're going to experience pain, but you can't escape the pain, but you can learn faster and you can move through it more quickly if you read, learn how to use money. I love it.
100%. The last thing I'll say is this: invest money more wisely. Cash flow, didn't understand financial literacy till I was about 45. Spent a lot of money foolishly trying to impress people, tables and cars and houses that didn't matter. I always say, I spent so much money trying to impress people that if I had it all back, it would be impressive. And nobody was impressed. And nobody remembers. Nobody calls me and says, dude, you remember that one time you dropped 10 grand at that nightclub? And remember that one time you paid for us all to go to that trip and we all had fun? And nobody remembers that shit. All that money I wasted trying to impress other people was foolish. Don't worry about impressing anyone. Worry about yourself. And I tell you, without fear of contradiction and with perfect certainty, that you'll look back one day and you'll say, that was some of the best advice I ever got.
Well, that's awesome, Brad. Well, it's an honor to spend this time with you talking. And obviously we're doing it for the show, but just personally, I really appreciate you being here. Appreciate you spending time with me here in Nashville, talking on the show. I follow you, and I'm going to follow you more closely now because I think there's a lot of, you use dropping bombs in your show, but I think you dropped a ton of that really amazing knowledge that for entrepreneurs listening to the show can actually make them successful. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
I appreciate
Thanks for
that
having
very
me.
much. Well, so everybody listening, watching on YouTube, got to go follow The Real Bradley on Instagram. Look him up on YouTube. Look up lightspeedvt.com. If there's ways that you can use it to train your employees, or there's a way if you've got content that you need to push out. Lightspeed is a platform that you can use to push that content out that gets what he's talking about, where you can actually use the content to replicate, to repeat, to do quizzes so that people actually learn, not just push info out, but actually get people to change and their behavior, change their beliefs, and do things better. So go follow The Real Brad Lee. Very pleased to have him in Nashville today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, please go subscribe. And my offer that I want to make you guys today for listening is that if you would like to get one free session of coaching with me, you can go to therealjasonduncan.com/free coaching. Now, why do I give away free sessions of coaching? My coaching is expensive. I'm an expensive coach because I've gone through the years of building businesses and being a failure and being a success, and I can help accelerate your success. You can't escape the pain, but I can help accelerate it for you. I give away the free session every week to some entrepreneur around the world because I want to give back, because I believe, and I think Brad would agree with me, that entrepreneurs are the ones who change the world. We are the ones who make life better. We are the ones that provide technology and things, and like Crocs, for goodness sake. Think about how many lives have been changed because of Crocs. It sounds silly, but if you start thinking about it, entrepreneurs change the world. And to that end, my mission and what I want to do to give back is I want to give away one free session a week. So every week I'm on Zoom coaching somebody, and it could be you. Just go to therealjasonduncan.com/free coaching. Simple form to fill out. My team reviews all that. If we think that you're a good quality candidate, we'll reach out to you and set it up. You get one free session. Therealjasonduncan.com/free coaching. So next week we're going to talk with another very successful entrepreneur, just like we had today on today's show. And I want you to tune in next week when we get there. And until then, remember this, and the way I sign off every time, Jesus is King. But for Brad's sake, Yeshua is King.
Amen.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we invite you to visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Take charge of your business. Grow it from great to incredible. Join us again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.